Holy smokers, this ain't no dang jokers. Palantir stock is moving, and I mean moving and grooving. Check out this stock, up another 14+% here today alone. This is a stock I was red on just a few weeks ago, and now we're up 49%, almost 50% in a snap of fingers here. So obviously we got to speak about Palantir stock here at the front of the video, okay? I'm going to speak about several other stocks out there, other opportunities I see in the market, some perspectives on what's going on in the market right now, and a few other things, okay? But at the front of this video, I just really wanted to spend this time obviously talking about Palantir. Stock's up another 14+%. I mean, it's moved 50% like in a snap of fingers here, right? And so I got some perspectives I want to share out there. I got some theories on why the stock is moving this much. Who is potentially buying the stock, and in many other various things. So busy video as always. I appreciate everybody being here. Thanks so much for being subscribed to the channel. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for smashing the thumbs up button. I appreciate y'all as always. And also, just so you know, if you're looking for my six-figure workshop, that's a free workshop I put together last week. There'll be a pinned comment down there if you want access to that. And for the people that make less than six figures, don't worry. I'm going to be working on a workshop for you guys next week. So expect that at some point next week, okay? So obviously, Palantir is starting to climb. We're doing very good on this position. Now we're up $18,752 on the stock in just the public count alone as of right now. Okay. Now, something very interesting happened in Palantir stock today, and it wasn't just the 14% move that was interesting. Okay. Something very specific with the trading activity and action was very, very interesting. Okay. And what happened was this stock showed complete strength as the day went on and on and on. It almost closed at the highs of the day. It was absolutely incredible. I mean, right off the bat, it made its big move, okay, to 1060, right off the bat there. And then you thought, okay, maybe that's kind of where it'll be chilling out at today. You know, hey, we're going to be somewhere in the, 1050 to maybe 1080 range. And what this stock did is it just kept going up and up and up and up and up throughout the day. And every single dip in Palantir stock was bought throughout the entire trading day, okay? That means you're getting some sort of momentum going into the stock of continuous buying pressure, okay? And we'll talk about who's likely putting a lot of this buying pressure, and it could be actually several different individuals and entities out there right now, okay? Now, look at the volume here today. The average volume for Palantir is around 40 million shares trade hands on a given day. Today, 165 million shares traded hands. That's an incredible number. What that basically tells me is the amount of buying pressure out there today was astronomically high, right? And obviously for every buyer, there's a seller. But in order to have somebody buying into a major position, I mean, it just puts such a crazy amount of volume in terms of that buying pressure on the stock that the only way you can basically, when you have that sort of the volume there, and you have that many buyers in the market, it's going to force the stock price up in a substantial way. And that's why the stock went up 14.5% here today. Somebody's out there doing it. So who's up to this? Okay. Well, one of the theories is Cathie Wood. Okay. So Cathie Wood bought yesterday, from what we understand, about $13 million worth of Palantir stock. That was yesterday, right? It looks like she's buying it in several different ETFs. So it's not just in one ETF, it's in several different ETFs. Now, if she was buying yesterday, there's a decent probability she could have been out there buying today as well. And if I had to guess, maybe she bought another $10 to $30 million worth of stock here today. Now, the interesting thing is, I don't think she's the only one out there buying. I think there's a lot of Wall Streeters are starting to wake up to this Palantir story. And they're starting to realize, I need to get on this train now, okay? How are you going to be on the AI train if you're not in Palantir stock? Palantir is one of the most direct plays, in my personal opinion, on artificial intelligence in helping governments, in helping businesses make better decisions, right? And using their data to make much better decisions. And so when I look at something like Palantir, it's about the most pure play artificial intelligence stock you can possibly be in the entire market, right? Like even NVIDIA is, some people look at that as a pure play, but NVIDIA's business is so massive that, there's a lot of different components outside of AI. AI is going to be a very small amount of their business even over the next 1 to 2 years, right? Palantir is the most direct AI play, I think, in the market. And I think some are starting to slowly wake up to this idea. And I think more and more are going to wake up to this idea over this next 6 to 12 months, which means you're going to have continued buying pressure on Palantir that's going to be very substantial. Now you tack on top of that a balance sheet that is, has $2 billion plus in cash and in short-term investments on it, right? Along with no debt. So if there's a recessionary scenario, which is always a worry out there, right? Then obviously they can make it through just fine. You're talking about a business model that's very sticky, is attracting a ton of customers. Their numbers are coming in better than expected. And we're talking about S&P 500 inclusion likely coming either at the end of this year or the beginning of 2024. You add all those things together, and I don't think there's going to be a slowdown in buying pressure on the stock anytime soon. I mean, does that mean every day the stock's going to go up 14.5%? Absolutely not, okay? But in my opinion, the buying pressure on Palantir stock is going to be intense for a year. Because you got to remember, as they get closer and closer to S&P 500 inclusion, this is going to basically start a whole cycle of people trying to funnel into this stock and buying in before that actually happens, because generally there's a huge move up once you get in the S&P 500 many times, because all these funds are forced to buy the stock. And remember, Palantir's market cap is on the lower side of the S&P 500 in general, right? We're talking about, who knows what their market cap could be when they actually enter the S&P 500. Maybe it's 40 billion, 50 billion, 60 billion. But there's going to be a huge amount of buying pressure that happens when that happens, right? Which looks pretty darn probable. It's not a for sure slam dunk thing. They got to have 2 more quarters of profitability. But based upon their market cap and based upon what's looking like profitability-wise, they're going to get in the S&P 500. And everything else lines up as far as S&P 500 inclusion if you kind of look at that. So in my opinion, the buying pressure is not going to slow anytime soon, right? And I'm seeing stuff like this, and this is driving me crazy, man. It's driving me crazy. People selling out of this stock, right? And, a lot of retail, and people are doing this at $9, doing this at $10, doing this at $11. There's going to be people that continue to cash out of this stock. And, people can make their own decisions. Do whatever you flip and flapjack and want to do. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just like, I just sit back and laugh. That's all I can do. I can just sit back and laugh. You're going to sell out of a stock that has this sort of long-term opportunity in front of itself, that has the products this company has, that has a balance sheet this company has, that's at the infant stage of profitability, that has likely S&P 500 inclusion coming. Do what you want. But I'm just like, it's laughing, and it's also sad at the same time, because this is the same thing I remember played out in Tesla, right? Tesla was a game changer for a lot of us, right? A lot of us made hundreds of thousands of dollars on that stock. We made millions of dollars on Tesla stock, right? And I watched a lot of retail sell out of that stock when it made its first 20, 30, 40% move. And I'm selling out. And it was just like, you're not going to be part of this ride? Like, we got a ride to go on here, baby. And you're gonna jump off. You jump off now. You jump off this hayride now. You're gonna miss the fun. And unfortunately, people miss the fun, right? I mean, Tesla went from a market cap that was $40 billion to $1 trillion plus, and that happened in a matter of a few years, right? And so when I'm looking at a company like Palantir, if you think that can't go from a $15 to $20 billion market cap to an $85 to $100 billion market cap in a matter of a few years, you're mistaken, okay? Because it definitely can pull something like that off. And but this is a story of what happens, right? Retail gets excited about a stock, they make a little money, and they run out of it. I've done it plenty of times, and I've always regretted it. ELF is a good example of that. I made 50%, 100%, cashed out a ton of my shares in ELF. And, today I'm sitting on an ELF gain of 1,000% plus, but it's only on 1,000 shares versus when I first started buying in that stock, I owned almost 10,000 shares, right? Let these game-changing companies with game-changing employee forces and strategies, let them do their thing. Let them go on their run, okay? Don't get caught up in all this short-term crap or the market or this or that. Don't, let that be what that's going to be, whatever it is, okay? And if they give you Palantir at a gift back at 10 or under 10, you can take advantage of that deal. But tell you, there's a decent probability that at this time next year, Palantir is $20 rather than $10. And you have to take that into account in a massive, massive way, right? Meta stock. So Meta just climbed over a 100% gain for us now in the public account, okay? 101%, $226,000, okay? Now, in regards to Palantir, what price would I sell Palantir at today? What price would Palantir stock need to be today for me to sell out of that stock? Palantir today would need to be about $40 a share for me to say, okay, I'll sell all my shares today. $40, okay? In regards to Meta, you got to understand, Meta's still early in this move, okay? This stock is likely going to climb a whole lot more, and here's why, okay? Here's the deal. Meta's trading at a forward P as far as next year earnings go, okay, of about 17. 17? Here's the deal. analyst numbers are too low as far as EPS estimates. I think Meta's going to blow those numbers away. Just wait till the next 3 quarters, and you see the net income, you see the EPS, and you see the operating income this company posts over this next, I would say 3 quarters, specifically the 3rd quarter and 4th quarter. It's going to be shocking. Analysts are going to be blown out of their seats, okay? And what they're going to do is they're going to have to bring up this number to likely $15, $16, or $17 for next year's earnings, okay? Which means the 4P is even lower. Now, even if this number was accurate, which once again I think is very low, basically Meta's a steal deal. Steal deal. It's trading at 17, 24 times. I mean, that doesn't even make sense. This stock should easily be trading at 25 to 35 times 2024 numbers. So here's the deal. Don't be surprised at all if Meta's $300+ this year. Don't be surprised if it's $350+ this year, regardless of what happens in the indexes. Do not be surprised at all because the stock is so significantly underpriced right now. And I think that's something that needs to be taken into account. So when you see, oh my gosh, there's so much money being made here, just got to understand, this is early. This is early move, Meta. We got a long way to go in this one, baby. And I mean a long way to go. I mean, early days there, okay? Shopify. So this is interesting, right? I saw Kathy Wood. It looks like she's either sold out of all her Shopify stock now or she sold out of almost all of it, okay? And it's interesting, right? So Shopify stock that's done very well. I own it in the Patreon portfolio. Obviously, the dollar amount is really small because the Patreon portfolio in general is really small. I just started, in January? And so we're up to a few $1,000s in there. And the Patreon portfolio will build out into a 5-figure and 6-figure account over time. But it's small numbers we're working with now. Look at the percentage gain I have on Shopify. 57%. 57%, right? Now, you might think, maybe that is a good opportunity to sell, but I think Shopify is maybe the most confusing, understood stock in the stock market right now, okay, or misunderstood, okay? And here's what I'm looking at with Shopify. You look at face value on Shopify and you're like, geez, the stock seems so expensive. 36 analysts cover the stock for 2024 numbers, 122 forward P, that seems so high, right? I think Shopify is about to put on the most shocking next 12 to 18 months of any public company over the next 12 to 18 months. Because what I'm looking at with Shopify, with the cuts they've done in their employee force and are going through right now, and the getting out of those logistics businesses and whatnot, like Deliver, what I'm looking like with Shopify is I think you're going to see this company built into an absolute cash flow and profit machine. The likes that we haven't seen in a long, long time in regards to Shopify, if ever. And I don't think analysts have even really factored that in nearly enough. And so what I think is going to likely play out specifically, it will start in the 3rd quarter. It won't really start in the 2nd quarter because they're going to have a bunch of one-time costs that really hit them and things like that. It'll really start in the 3rd quarter and 4th quarter, in my opinion, is you're going to see their net income absolutely fly to their moon and the EPS as well. The margins are going to start to expand rapidly. And these analysts are going to realize, oh my gosh, our margin estimates are far off. Our operating income numbers are far off. Our net income numbers are far off. And we're going to have to start bringing up numbers substantially. And so Shopify looks like it's trading incredibly expensive right now. But I can just tell you, in my opinion, I don't think the stock's trading actually very expensive. I think you're going to see that play out. And the numbers are going to be pretty shocking over this next, specifically after we get over the 2nd quarter and we get into the 3rd quarter, 4th quarter of this year, okay? And so that's why Shopify, for me right now, is kind of more of a hold. It's not like I'm necessarily looking to buy more Shopify shares. I might here and there, but it's not like it's a real buy for me. But I'm also not going to sell a stock that they just completely changed their entire business model. And the changes they just made in their business model is going to make this company exponentially more profitable than any Shopify we've ever seen, ever, okay? And so, that's an interesting one to play out there. TPR, Tapestry. They own Coach, Kate Spade, Stuart Weitzman, some nice brands, okay? And this is my biggest position in my dividend-only portfolio. It's a very significant position in there, $44,000 position, right? And we're up 247% on the stock, right? It's done us tremendous. I bought less than $13,000, 12-something thousand dollars I put in the stock. And it's made us all that money, and this doesn't even account for dividend money I've received in the stock, right? And so it's done me tremendous as the biggest position in there, right? But the interesting thing is, in regards to a stock like Tapestry, you might say, well, why not cash out of the stock? Here's why I don't cash out of the stock, despite the massive move. Check out the P metrics on the stock. It's trading at 2023 earnings of about 11, right? And we're trading at 2024 numbers of about a 10 forward P on 2024 numbers. Am I really going to sell a stock that's valued like that? I don't think so, okay? Not with the brands they have, not with the way this company's executed. I mean, even look at their latest numbers. Like, why would I cash out of a company like that? Yeah, the gain's great, but like, where am I going to put it that is more attractive actually than a forward P of 10 on a company with the brands that this company has, right? But not only that, think about it from this perspective, right? This company throws me off. Remember, I put 12 something thousand dollars into the stock, right? And this company throws me off $304 of dividends every 3 months, right? Now, their dividend amount they're paying is actually very low compared to their earnings per share. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if they don't up this dividend to 40 cents, 50 cents. And so which means I'll likely be starting to make $400, $500 in dividend money every 3 months from the stock on a 12 something thousand dollar investment. Why would I not continue to take that opportunity, especially when the stock's trading at a forward P of 10-ish? Like, why would I need to run out of that? It doesn't make financial sense for me to make a decision like that, right? Kind of almost have to look at sometimes dividend investing like you would a real estate investment property, and like, what's your mortgage on that if you got a loan on that property, right? And what's the cash flowing to you each month, right? And for me, run the numbers on this. Like, why would it make sense? And like I said, their dividends, it's likely going 40, 50, 60, 70 cents over this next few years based upon how much they're earning versus how little they actually pay out in the form of dividends. Like, there's a long way to go there. So that's one of the stocks that, for the purpose of the dividend portfolio, which is cash flow, doesn't make sense for me to say I got to run out of this and go buy something else, okay? I thought this was interesting, right? Take-Two made a huge move here today. Take-Two Interactive was up over 11% in regards to the stock. And this is because basically there's a lot of excitement and hype that the next Grand Theft Auto is coming out next year with GTA 6. Now, this was fascinating for me because I saw the stock up 11% on that excitement. And all I could think is, who doesn't know this is coming? Like, everybody and their grandma knows this is coming, right? Likely next year at some point in time. And so for me to see that, it was just a little laughable. I'm just like, wow, the stock moved that much. I'm like, do people not pay attention to what games are coming in the pipeline and things like that? Like, anybody that's a gamer knows that GTA 6 is likely coming next year. Like, that's not like crazy news to anybody. So I just found it fascinating that the investors were so excited about this, and they that stock moved up over 10% here today. Interesting. But if anybody owns Take-Two stock, congrats to you guys. Okay, congrats to you. Now, this was fascinating. I saw this, okay? A friend sent me this here today, okay? He texted me this over, and I went ahead and took a peek at this. Carl Icahn says he was wrong in predicting the stock market would crash, and he lost over $9 billion betting on a crash here, right? Carl Icahn's been in the news for a lot of, obviously not such good things recently, including the Hindenburg report that came out, what was that, a few weeks ago now at this point in time, right? And I was kind of reading through it a little more, right? It says, like I say, in the long run, bears sound smart, bulls make money. I mean, if that's not the most true statement I've ever heard, I don't know what is. Okay, that is the most true statement. Bears can always, I think that's why there's such an obsession around bears, because it can always sound smart, and and certainly if I give you a bear case around something, it does sound intelligent, but it's actually so dumb. And that's the way it's been for 100 plus years. That's the way it will be for another 100 plus years. There's always a fascination, but I mean, at the end of the day, we know who makes money in this game, right? This was interesting. Bill Ackman lost around $1 billion short in Herbalife before covering a short in 2018. Bill Ackman stopped shorting since, and now Bill Ackman's performance has been tremendous and doing obviously much better for Bill Ackman. That's fascinating, right? And this comment was interesting, right? He's just early, not wrong, right? And it had actually 32 hearts, right? And it says, what do you mean early? Laugh out loud. He started losing billions in 2017, calling for a crash, right? And, yeah. There's always that perspective, right? It's just early, right? And I saw this one, right? This had 26 hearts. Not wrong, but he forgot the markets can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. Make it all back in one trade. Let's go, Bears. And unfortunately, I feel like that's a lot of the retail community right now. They're still stuck in this kind of phase of kind of gambling around crashing the market. And what we saw in 2021 was definitely, obviously, a lot of gambling in the market, crypto, everything, okay? Everything was a gamble, right? But that was really from people doing call options, people betting on, obviously, risky companies. I got into several of those, and I think just about everybody and their grandma did, right? But then it shifted. And then retail looked and they lost so much money, and they said, you know what? Look at the bears are making all this money. And so what happened is retail slowly started to shift in the second half of 2022, from their losing long positions, losing call options, losing stocks, and they started to convert all that money into put options and shorting. And they've absolutely got wrecked to oblivion, okay? And now they're kind of hanging on to this like denial phase of like, it's going to work out and we're going to make it all back in one trade and these sorts of things, right? Which is very much a gambling type philosophy. Like that's the way a lot of people that are addicted to gambling on the strip or casino gambling, that's the way they talk. I can make it all back, and there's one game and there's one bet or something like that, right? And you're not looking at the market from like a practical standpoint of like building out positions and building out a great portfolio of great companies and things like that. You're just looking at it like, I got to make my money back that I lost, right? And it's like a gambler chasing their losses. And so as somebody that's been through that, I've definitely been through that twice in my life, right? It's a tough cycle to go through. And I feel like that's where a lot of retail is right now. That's where a lot of them are at, man. And they have this sort of philosophy. And there's a lot of people that agree with them, man. A lot of people that agree with them. And it's a scary phenomenon. You go on. And the best way I could put it like this, right? You pull up the Forbes list, the richest people in the world, right? And you ask, are these folks more the optimistic types or the pessimistic types, right? Every single one is so optimistic. It's not even funny, right? These bears will look at it. This is the richest man in the world, right? And he owns a big portion of Louis Vuitton, right? And, somebody that's pessimistic, one of these bears would look at that and be like, oh, no one's going to buy $3,000, $5,000 handbags. It's never going to happen, right? And this man's like, yes, they will. And they're going to buy him in mass. And he became the richest man in the world, right? Between that and all his other brands. Like, it's absolutely amazing, right? Elon Musk, look at what Elon Musk has pulled off at Tesla and SpaceX and everything like that. Like, you kidding me? These bears, you think they would say, oh, yeah, I think that's going to work, Elon? Of course not, okay? That's why they've been so fascinated and obsessed with shorting that man's stock and losing themselves billions and tens of billions of dollars along the way. Because they look at it from pessimistic. You'll never be able to pull off what you're trying to pull off, and he pulls it off, right? Extremely optimistic. You look at what Jeff Bezos has done with Amazon over time, right? Absolutely incredible. And these pessimists would never look at that, right? They were saying that Amazon was going to go bust. And look at Jeff Bezos ended up being the third richest person in the world, and is going to be on this list until he's not here anymore, right? Larry Ellison, what he built with Oracle over time, right? Obviously, Mr. Warren Buffett always stays overall optimistic. He can have some pessimistic views sometimes, but overall the man is always optimistic. Even in older age, which as you get older, I think it's easier to be pessimistic. Even in his 90s, man is still optimistic on the long term, right? Bill Gates, obviously, you're not going to build a company like that in Microsoft without doing that. Larry Page and what he built with Google, these pessimists, these shorts, they would look at something like that and be like, oh, no one's going to advertise on the internet. Like, newspapers is a way to go. That's the way they would have looked at that, right? And he's like, no, we're going to build out something that's absolutely massive here. And so you just go through the list over time and you realize, like, the optimists always win. And that's the name of the game in the stock market, in life in general, right? And you look at every single person that you would ever, like, people have I think people have many times the wrong idols. They're looking at, these folks that, like a Michael Burry, and no disrespect to that man, but I mean, just his net worth is like a can of soda compared to a lot of these other gentlemen, right? And they look to these folks that are seen as like these bears, like they're so smart, and they're just not. If we look at the scoreboard, they're just not. The scoreboard tells you everything you'd ever want to know about who's really smart and who sounds smart, right? There's like fake smart and there's real smart. And, look at, who do you want to look at? Do you want to look at the people that are most successful, or do you want to look at the people that are seen as smart? I'd rather look at the people that are actually successful, what their actions are, what they're up to, right? Even look at a man like, I thought this was fascinating recently, Stanley Druckenmiller, right? And, he was even talking about, maybe the markets could be flattish for the next decade, right? Which is a very bearish perspective to have. But you look at the man's actions. Is he all out of the market? Or does he hold a massive amount of stocks? Of course, he holds massive amount of stocks. So yet he could be pessimistic on the market in general in terms of its performance, but yet the man is massively invested. He also has a position in Palantir, right? And owns tons of stocks, including some stocks that I own. Like, if I recall, he owns a crazy big portion of Meta, which is directly reflected in advertising business. And so the man sounds bearish, but yet you look at his actions, and they don't say bearish to me. They actually say bullish in many different facets, right? Who do you want to be your idols? That's all I'll say about that, okay? In the money game, I want to look to the people that have actually had crazy success. I want to look at the scoreboard. I want to look who's actually having that success. No different than if I wanted to say, I want to learn how to be the greatest three-point shooter. I would look to Steph Curry and I would say, how's that man shoot? How many shots is he getting up a day? What's his form like? How does he do it, right? Or I could have somebody that sounds super sophisticated and they read a book on this and that and they're like, oh, wow, they sound so smart. And, it's like, what did you ever do? Were you in the NBA? No. Were you ever in college basketball? No. And it's like, who are you paying attention to, man? Who are you paying attention to in this game, okay? And I think that matters in a pretty darn significant way. If you are an investor out there that wants to take your game to the next level and learn directly from me, somebody that's been doing this for 15 years now at this point in time, then check out and apply for my private group. That is going to be in the description area down there to fill out an application and join us on in there. You can join myself, the 6-figure, 7-figure members, and you also get access to our entire Discord chat with all the different stocks we talk about in there, including we have huge communities. Tesla community is massive. The Palantir community is absolutely epically massive in there, and you get to be part of all that. That'll be in the description area. Much love as always, and have a great day.